Hey everyone, welcome back, and in this video let's talk about constructors. Now if I say the word constructor, what comes to your mind? So if I say constructor, that basically means to construct something or a thing that can construct something, right? So that's basically a constructor. So when we talk about object oriented programming, so you cannot create objects without a constructor. But wait, we are already creating some objects and we are playing around with them, and we haven't created any constructor, right? So in this case, if you don't create any constructor, a default constructor is being created by the Java itself internally, and you cannot see that. Okay, so when you click compile, so Java sees, have you made any constructor? If don't, it makes a default constructor that does nothing. So let's see what is a constructor. Okay, so this is the code from the previous video and I won't be changing much in this. Okay, so what I'll be doing is, as you can see, we have a class person, correct? So in order to create a constructor for a class, what we need to do is we just need to type in the class name, then braces, okay, basically like we do in the methods, right? And there should not be any return type and nothing. So what is this? This is a constructor, and you can already see there are two uses. So I'm using this in Piyush and in the John class, right? Now how to verify that yes, this constructor works whenever an object is created? So basically what happens, I can say that as out, I can say creating a object. Okay, see what happens if I run this code. So you can see creating an object, creating an basically it should be I'm sorry for that. So if I run this program, you can see that creating an object and creating an object, correct? So whenever you create an object, let's do one thing. Let's comment out the whole code. Okay, there's no code, so everything is commented out. Just I click on play and you can see creating an object. So from where this object is coming. So what happens whenever there is a constructor that you have defined? When you try to create an object, first constructor is called. All the task that is being performed in the constructor is performed, and then the object is created to you. Okay, so in this case what's happening, I'm trying to create one object, that is Piyush. So like before this new person thing returns you the object, this code executes. Okay, now what is the benefit of a constructor? What if you want to do some task when an object creates, right? So all the tasks that should be done while a constructor is created, while an object is created, should be put inside a constructor. Okay, so maybe like creating an object or anything that you want to do. Okay, let me give you one classic example. Let's remove this code. Okay, let's remove this whole code, and let's say whenever you create a person, I want to enforce you that you should give a name. But in this case, you can see that here's a Piyush class, and if I say sout Piyush.name, and if I run this code, as you can see that it's coming to be null. But obviously it's not possible to have a person without a name. So how can I enforce this thing? So I can say that this is a constructor. Now this constructor needs an argument of name, and what I will do, I'll say this. Now you already know what is this. Dot name equals to name. So this dot name refers to this one name on the line number 2, and this name is the local name. Now see what will happen. You are already getting an error. Now you cannot create an object of a person class without giving the name, right? So if I say that the name of this particular object is Piyush, correct? So if I say that sout the name of the Piyush, so I'm getting Piyush. Similarly, if I try to create one more class person, and let's name it as John equals new person, so you can already see that I'm getting an error that arguments are required. So what I can say that the name of John is John, and if I say sout, hey John, what's your name? So hey John, what's your name? So I should be getting John on the terminal, correct? And similarly, you can have even more constructors. Now in this particular scenario, in this particular example, we are enforcing the user to give the name, correct? What I can do, I can even have one more constructor, and I can left this constructor without any arguments. Okay, now see what will happen. Let's say I create a Piyush without any name. Okay, so what will happen, the Java compiler will say, okay, you are calling the person class without any arguments. So let's do one thing. This is not the person constructor that I need to call, right? Because this accepts the argument. So what I'll do, I'll call this one for you. Okay, so for the Piyush object, this particular constructor will be called, and for the John, the parameterized constructor will be called. Just to verify this, if I say sout, calling without the name, okay, and I can say that sout calling with name, okay. So if I run this code right now, so you can see first I get calling without name because for Piyush I didn't give any arguments, and then I get calling with name. Just in case I give some arguments for the Piyush class, you can see calling with name, okay. And interesting fact, this particular thing is known as I can say like polymorphism. See, there are many forms of person, correct? There is a parameterized and there is a non-parameterized. So this thing is known as polymorphism. Okay, you can call this as polymorphism, and this is a way to create, like, you can even have more constructors, right? You can have a constructor that can accept a integer, and that will basically assign this age to that particular thing. You can like create as many as constructors you want, and just in case you don't create any constructor, a default constructor is created, and the signature of default constructor looks something like this. So there is no parameters, there is nothing. So this is what a Java creates if you don't specify the constructor yourself. Okay, now if I remove this as well, so you can already see I cannot give the parameters because the default constructor that Java creates has no parameters. So that's how I need to work. So I hope the concept of constructors is clear to you. What is a constructor and why do we need constructors, and what is the basic functionality of a constructor? Okay, so what in the upcoming videos we'll be using constructors a lot, and we'll be using constructors to basically initialize our variables. Okay, initialize our property. When a person class will be created, we'll enforce the user to give some initial values for our variables, okay, for basically properties. So that was the demonstration on what are constructors, how you can use constructors, and I hope you find this thing really easy. So let's meet you in the next video. Until then, bye bye, take care.